The doorbell wouldn't stop ringing, a frantic buzz against the sound of the rain. When I opened the door, there she was, soaked to the bone, clutching a child in her arms. "Say, Daddy," she whispered to the little girl, who was delirious with fever, her own voice trembling. I just stood there, stunned. The steam from the instant ramen I'd been about to eat stung my eyes. The last time I saw her, our breakup had been a screaming match. I never knew she existed. The medical bills wiped out most of my savings, and now the child's scorching hot hand was wrapped around my finger as she mumbled the picture. "The one Mommy looks at." Claire turned her head away, unable to meet my eyes. The rain hammered against the windows like a fistful of rocks. I just peeled back the lid on my cup of ramen when the doorbell started. Through the peephole, all I could see was a patch of drenched Faber plastered against the door under the cold porch light. I didn't open it. This place was off the beaten path. Not many people knew I lived here. The bell rang again, stubborn. One shrill burst after another, a desperate sound swallowed by the storm. I frowned and cracked the door open. A gust of wind and rain blew in first. Then I saw her. Claire. I almost didn't recognize her. Her hair was plastered to her cheeks, her face a ghostly white. Her clothes were soaked through, clinging to a frame that was far too thin. She was holding something tight against her chest, wrapped in an equally drenched coat. "Ethan," she said. Her voice raw, torn apart by the wind. My hand was still on the doorknob. I didn't move. "What is it?" It had been 3 years. We hadn't ended on good terms. Her eyes were vacant, lost. She just hugged the bundle in her arms tighter. The bundle shifted and a tiny face emerged, flushed red, eyes closed with long, wet eyelashes. It was a child, maybe 2 or 3 years old. My stomach dropped. The steam from the ramen felt suffocating. She looked up at me, her lips trembling. It wasn't from a cold. It was the kind of tremor you get when you're trying to hold everything inside. "Say, Daddy," she said softly to the child in her arms. The kid didn't open her eyes, either asleep or sick. My mind went blank. A loud buzzing noise like a snapped wire. The motion-activated light in the hallway flickered and died, plunging us into darkness. There was only the sound of the rain and her ragged, suppressed breathing. The light snapped back on. I was still frozen in the doorway. She offered the child to me, a clumsy, exhausted movement that seemed to take all the strength she had left. "She's her daughter," she said. "Ethan, just look at her." The ramen sat on the table, the heat already gone. The child was on my couch now, wrapped in a dry towel, still asleep, her small face burning red. Claire stood nearby, wringing her hands, her nails digging into her own palms. "What's going on?" I heard my own voice, dry and hollow. She didn't look at me, her gaze fixed on the child. "A high fever for 2 days. Why isn't she at a hospital?" We went. I ran out of money. The words came out slowly, squeezed from her throat one by one. She took the medicine. It didn't help. I took a breath, my lungs feeling cold. "Mine." She finally turned to me. Her eyes were bloodshot, filled with something heavy I couldn't decipher. "Who else's? When was she born?" I found out 4 months after we broke up. I did the math. It was right after our worst fight. The one where she'd slammed the door and never came back. She blocked my number, cut off all contact. "Why didn't you tell me?" A corner of her mouth twitched. It wasn't a smile. "Tell you what, congratulations, your father, or ask if you wanted to come see her." "Ethan, you didn't want to see me then, I knew that." The hallway light went out again. I didn't clap to turn on. In the darkness, her voice softened. "I wasn't going to come find you," she said. I really didn't have a choice this time." The child let out a soft whimper like a kitten. Claire was at her side in an instant, frantically feeling her forehead. "We have to go to the hospital," I said. "Right now she didn't move. I don't have any money." "I do." I grabbed my car keys and walked to the couch, intending to pick up the child. She instinctively moved to block me, her arm protectively in front of the little girl like a cornered animal. I looked at her. She slowly lowered her arm. I bent down and carefully lifted the small, feverish body. She was so light, terrifyingly fragile, radiating an unnatural heat. Something deep inside me twisted. Claire followed me, her steps unsteady. My car was parked downstairs. The rain was coming down harder. I handed the child to her, pulled off my jacket to cover the girl's head, and ran for the car. I pulled up to the curb. She was standing under the awning, looking as thin and fragile as a piece of paper. Inside the car, I blasted the heat. No one spoke on the way to the hospital. There was only the rhythmic squeal of the windshield, wipers, and the child's short, troubled breaths. At a red light, I glanced at her profile. Her jaw was tight, her mouth set in a grim line. She was staring at the blurred, rain-slicked road ahead, but her eyes were a million miles away. Registration, emergency room, doctor's examination. Viral flu developing into pneumonia. She needed to be admitted. I went to pay the deposit, putting $5,000 on my card. When I got back, a nurse was trying to insert for her. The child was crying, a weak sound, her little arms and legs flailing. Claire held her down, her own hair falling forward to hide her face. The nurse was getting frustrated. Hold her still. Don't let her move. I stepped in, helping to hold the small burning arm. The needle went in and the child let out a heart-wrenching sob. Claire jerked her head away, her shoulders flinching. Once the floor was secured and the blankets were tucked in, the child, exhausted from crying, hiccuped herself to sleep. The room smelled sharply of antiseptic. Claire sat in the chair by the bed, her back ramrod straight, watching the medicine drip, drip, drip down the tube. "Have you eaten?" I asked her. She shook her head, her response delayed, as if she hadn't really heard me. I went downstairs and bought a container of soup and a couple of bread rolls from the hospital cafeteria. I went back up and pushed them into her hands. "Eat." She looked at the food, then at me, but didn't move. "You have to take care of her. You want to collapse. Only." Then did she slowly pick up the spoon, bringing a mouthful of soup to her lips, chewing mechanically. After a few bites, she put it down and reached out to feel the child's forehead again, still hot. "The medicine needs time to work," I said. She grunted in acknowledgement, pulled her hand back, and went back to staring at the soup. I leaned against the wall, looking at the tiny person in the hospital bed. Her eyebrows were faint, her nose a little flat. She looked like I did when I was a kid. My mind was a mess. "What's her name?" "Nora," she said, her voice low. The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Nora, the main character from the play we saw on our first date, the one she'd cried all the way through, the one she'd called the most beautiful, tragic story she had ever seen, the name she said she'd give a daughter if she ever had one. My throat went tight and I couldn't breathe. Who named her? I finally managed to ask. I did. She wouldn't look at me, her hand moving to gently brush a stray hair from the child's forehead. I decided back then, late that night, the fever finally started to break. Claire had fallen asleep, slumped over the side of the bed, her breathing shallow, her brow still furrowed. I went out to the end of the hall for a cigarette. Outside the window, the sky was beginning to lighten, but the rain hadn't stopped. The nicotine burned my lungs, tamping down the chaos in my head. I had a daughter. Her name was Nora. She was 3 years old, and Claire had been raising her. Alone, she didn't look like she was doing okay, not all. I finished my third cigarette and went back. Claire was awake, using a cotton swab dipped in water to carefully moisten the child's lips. Her movements were practiced. "Sure, you should go home and get some sleep," she said, not looking up. "I'll stay here. Don't you have work tomorrow? I'll call in." She said nothing more. I pulled over a chair and sat across from her. The air was silent except for the faint whir of the pump. The child stirred. Whimpering, Claire immediately leaned over, patting her gently. "Mommy's here." Her voice was so soft it was almost unfamiliar. The child settled back to sleep. Claire stayed, hunched over like that for a long time, perfectly still. The sky was fully bright now. The rain had softened to a drizzle. A nurse came in for rounds, took a temperature. 100.1, much better. Claire's shoulders visibly relaxed. She whispered a thank you. The nurse looked from me to her. "Dad should probably go. Get some breakfast. You two have to take care of yourselves, too." I went downstairs and bought coffee and bagels. When I returned, Claire was in the bathroom. I could hear the water running. An older woman from the next bed smiled at me. "Your daughter is so sweet. Barely made a peep all night," she added. "Your wife must be exhausted. I don't think she slept a wink." I opened my mouth and closed it. I didn't correct her. Claire came out, her eyes shadowed with dark circles. She took the coffee, offered, and slowly sipped it. The child woke up. She opened her eyes big and dark and looked at me, then at Claire a little shy. "Nora, you're awake. Are you feeling any better?" Claire put down her coffee and leaned in close, her voice impossibly gentle. The child mumbled something. "What is it, sweetie?" "Tell Mommy." "Bear." Claire reached into a worn tote bag and pulled out a scruffy brown bear, its fur nearly worn smooth, and tucked it into her daughter's arms. Nora hugged the bear and fell silent, her big eyes still fixed on me. Claire followed her gaze, her lips tightening. "Nora, this is—" She trailed off, seemingly unsure how to introduce me. Suddenly the child whispered, "Daddy." Both Claire and I froze. The room was silent for a beat. How did you know?" Claire's voice trembled. The child lifted the little bear, hiding her face behind it, only her eyes peeking over the top. "The picture," she mumbled. "The one Mommy looks at." In that instant, Claire's face went completely, transparently white. She was discharged a week later. The final bill took another $3,000 from my account. I drove back to my apartment complex. After I parked, Claire got out with Nora in her arms and followed me toward the building, her steps hesitant. Upstairs, I unlocked the door and stepped aside. "Come on in." She didn't move the medical bills. I'll pay you back. We could talk about that later. The apartment was exactly as I'd left it, the empty ramen container still on the coffee table. It was a mess. She stood in the middle of the living room looking lost. Nora looked around curious. You can take the bedroom, I said, pointing. I'll sleep on the couch, you don't have to. The kid just got over being sick. She can't risk catching a chill. I cut her off, grabbing the ramen container and tossing in the trash. Hot water in the bathroom is on the left. Clean towels are in the cabinet. She stood there holding Nora. Not moving. Ethan, we can't just stay here for free. You want to pay rent? I looked at her. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. How much a month? I can, just owe me, I said. I went into the bedroom and shoved my messy clothes into the closet, then stripped the bed and put on a clean set of sheets. It's ready, I said, coming back out. She was still standing in the same spot. Nora was perched on her shoulder, playing with her hair. I'm going out to buy a few things. Make yourselves at home. I went to the supermarket and bought rice, vegetables, meat, eggs, milk, and some of that nutritional baby food. Then I went to a department store and, guessing at the size, bought a few outfits for a toddler, a pair of sneakers, and new towels and toothbrushes. I came back with my arms full of bags. As I opened the door, the apartment was quiet. I heard water running in the bathroom. I put the groceries away in the kitchen. When I came out, Claire was emerging from the bathroom with Nora. The girl's hair was damp and she was wearing a clean but faded set of clothes. She froze when she saw me. I bought groceries. I'll make something to eat in a bit, thank you. She sat Nora down on the couch and carefully dried her hair with a towel. I went into the kitchen to rinse rice and put on a pot of soup. While I was slicing some chicken, I heard a small giggle from the living room, just a tiny sound. I glanced over my shoulder. Claire was tickling her. Her lips were curved into a faint smile. I hadn't seen her smile in a long, long time. After we ate, it was dark. I pulled a comforter out of the closet and put on the couch. Claire came out after cleaning the kitchen. She saw the setup but didn't say anything. I brought my laptop. I can get some work done, she said, pulling an ancient Dell laptop from her worn-out backpack. The screen was tiny. There's a desk in the bedroom. No, this is fine. She sat on the far end of the couch and booted it up with Nora. Asleep, the apartment was quiet, filled only with the soft, rhythmic tapping of her keyboard. I scrolled through the news on my phone, my mind elsewhere. Around 10:00, she closed the laptop and rubbed her eyes. I'm done. You can go wash up. When I came out of the bathroom, the living room light was off, leaving only a small wall sconce glowing. She was lying on her side on the couch, her back to me, seemingly asleep. The comforter was a small lump in the dim light. I turned off the sconce and lay down on the other end of the couch, in the darkness. I could hear her breathing shallow and controlled, and the sound of Nora's soft snores from the other room. It was strange, and yet it felt like it had already embedded itself into my life, like a stone tossed into a stagnant pond. I couldn't sleep. I shifted my weight across the couch. Her breathing stopped for a few seconds before resuming. She wasn't asleep either. I woke up early the next day, my back aching from the small couch. There were noises coming. From the kitchen, I walked over. Claire was at the stove in my apron frying an egg. Nora was sitting on a small stool, hugging her bear and watching. Did I wake you? She asked, turning around with a start. It's almost ready, it's fine. Fried eggs, oatmeal, and some toast were set on the table. Eat up, she said, blowing on Nora's oatmeal to cool it down. We ate in silence. I did the dishes. She dressed Nora for the day. I have to go to work today. Said, the spare key is on the hook by the door. If you need anything, just buy it. I took out my wallet, pulled out a few hundred, maybe 200 or 300, and put on the table. She looked at the cash but didn't touch it. It's a loan, I said. She looked down, focusing on buttoning Nora's sweater. Thank you. When I got home from work, I could smell food before I even opened the door. The scent of something savory being cooked. I walked in. Nora was sitting on the floor playing with a few colorful wooden blocks the last tenant had left behind. In the kitchen, Claire was at the stove. There were already 2 dishes on the table. Pasta with tomato sauce and a side of steamed broccoli. You're home, she said, turning a sheen of sweat on her forehead. Dinner's almost ready. Nora saw me, put down her blocks, and unsteadily got to her feet. She didn't say anything, just watched me. I took off my shoes. Tell him dinner's ready, Claire said, carrying pan to the table. Nora said softly, Mr. Dinner. Okay, I sat down. Pasta, broccoli, and chicken. It tasted good, really good. After dinner, I washed the dishes. She mopped the floor. Nora followed her around like a little shadow. She mopped her way over to my feet. Lift your feet, she said. I lifted them. And so the days passed. It was strange, but also felt strangely natural. She wasn't so tense anymore. Sometimes I'd work late, and when I got home, the living room light would be on, a plate of food left for me on the table covered with a bowl. She'd be on the couch with her laptop, Nora asleep in the bedroom. When she heard the door open, she'd look up. "Did you eat?" "Not yet. It's probably cold. You should heat it up." Yeah, I'd heat up the food and eat. She'd go back to work. Occasionally, Nora would get fussy and refuse to sleep. Claire would be in the room humming a quiet, indistinct melody. I'd lie on the couch and listen. That weekend, I went to a furniture store and bought a small toddler bed. It was delivered that afternoon. While the delivery guys were assembling it in the spare room, she stood in the doorway watching. "How much was it?" "Hi, don't worry about it," I interrupted. "It's fine." After the bed was set up, the spare room, which had been full of my junk, actually started to look like a kid's room. Nora was ecstatic, rolling around on her new bed, hugging her bear. "Nora's bed," she declared. Claire leaned against the door frame, watching her, a faint smile on her lips. "That night," she insisted Nora sleep in her own room. "She's old enough to sleep by herself. She's only 3. Isn't that a little young?" "She's not," she said, her tone firm. "She needs to get used to it." The first night, Nora slept alone. I heard crying in the middle of the night. I opened my door. Clare was already there holding Nora and rocking her. "Mommy's here, scared. It's okay. Your bear is right here with you." I went and got a glass of warm water and handed it to her. She took it and helped Nora take a few sips. "Should we let her sleep with us?" The word "us" felt strange as soon as I said it. She shook her head. "She has to get used to it." Nora cried herself back to sleep. Claire gently laid her down and tucked her in. We backed out of the room. The hallway was narrow. She smelled faintly of milk, the same scent that clung to Nora. "Sorry we woke you," she said. "It's fine." A moment of silence passed. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For everything." She didn't look at me, turning back toward the master bedroom. The click of her door was very quiet. One day after work, there were 2 large plastic bags by the front door. They were filled with old toys, picture books, and some toddler clothes. Claire was in the kitchen cooking. The lady across the hall gave them to us. She said her granddaughter outgrew them. "Oh, at dinner," she told Nora. "You have to say thank you to the nice lady." Nora nodded. The next day, the neighbor Sharon caught me in the hallway. "Hey, Ethan, is that your wife and daughter?" I hesitated for a second. "Yeah, I haven't seen them around before. They were staying with family back east." "Oh," Sharon smiled. "The little one looks just like you, especially her eyes." She added, "Your wife has had it tough raising a kid on her own while waiting for you for so long." I just smiled and didn't explain. That weekend, I took Nora to the playground in our complex. Claire came with us. Sharon was there with her granddaughter. "Nora's dad, could you take a picture for us?" Sharon handed me her phone. I took it and snapped a few photos of them with the 2 kids. The sun was bright. Claire looked a little awkward, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Nora was laughing. "Look over here, Nora," I called out. She turned and gave a crooked peace sign. Claire looked at her and smiled, a real smile this time. I pressed the shutter. That evening, Sharon texted me the photo. "You took a great picture," Claire said softly, looking at it. "Yeah," she said it as her phone's lock screen. A few days later, a package arrived for me. A big box. I opened it. Inside was a new set of children's bedding printed with little stars, a few new toys, and a set of picture books. There was no sender's name on the label. I looked at Claire. She shook her head. It wasn't me. My phone rang. It was my mom. "Did you get the package? You sent it." Sharon told me everything. My mom said, her voice calm, she said, "You have a daughter 3 years old." She paused, "And her name is Nora. When are you coming home? Bring the child and her." I looked at Nora playing with the new blocks and at Claire, whose profile had gone rigid. "Mom, about this." "You don't need to explain," my mom interrupted. "Just come home for dinner. I want to meet my granddaughter." The line went dead. Claire looked at me, her face pale. "Your mother?" "Yeah, she knows." Sharon, our neighbor, they were college roommates. Claire fell silent, her fingers picking at a loose thread on the sofa. "If you don't want to go, you don't have to," I said. She was quiet for a long time. Nora is her granddaughter. She finally said, "We should go." That weekend, we drove to my parents' house. Nora was excited. It was the longest she'd ever been in a car. Claire was quiet the whole way, just watching the scenery go by. When we pulled up to their house, she took a deep breath before getting out of the car. My mom opened the door. Her eyes went right past me, landing first on Claire's face, then dropping to Nora. "Hello," Claire said quietly. Nora hid behind her legs, clutching her bear, peeking out. "Come in," my mom said, her expression unreadable. My dad was on the couch. He just nodded. "Have a seat." The atmosphere was tense. Nora whispered, "Mommy, who are they?" before Claire could. Answer, my mom produced a small box and opened it. Inside was a small golden locket. Nora, come here. The little girl looked up at Claire, who gave her a gentle nudge. Go on, go to Grandma. My mom fastened the locket around Nora's neck. She stroked her hair. She looks just like Ethan did. At dinner, my mom put a piece of chicken on Claire's plate. Eat more, you're too thin. Claire looked down at her bowl. Thank you, ma'am. Call me Mom, my mom said. Claire's chopsticks froze. My dad cleared his throat. Let's eat first. After dinner, my mom took Nora to play with a new doll she'd bought. My dad and I stood on the back porch. What's the deal? He asked. It's what it is. 3 years old and you never knew I didn't know. He took a long look at me. So what's the plan now? Haven't figured out yet. She raised a child by herself for 3 years, my dad said, lighting a cigarette. That's not easy. Don't do her wrong. When we left, my mom pressed an envelope in Claire's hand. It was thick. Ma'am, I can't take it. My mom held her hand firmly. Buy something nice for the baby. She looked at me. Come back more often. We were miles away before Claire stopped staring out the window, the envelope still clutched in her hand. Nora, exhausted, was asleep in her car seat. Your mother is very kind, she said suddenly. Yeah, silence. The street lights slid across the car's interior one by one. Ethan. Yeah, what? Where are we now? She asked after a long pause. Life settled into a rhythm like water seeping into sand. Claire found a job as a cashier at a small supermarket a few bus stops away. During the day, I went to work, and she would drop Nora off at a little in-home daycare nearby, picking her up on her way home. Then she'd cook dinner and wait. Sometimes I worked late. I come home to find a living room light on a plate of food on the table covered with a bowl. She wouldn't be in the living room and there'd be no light under Nora's door, so I figured she was asleep. There would be a few dollars on a coffee table. Leftover grocery money. I never touched it. One day I got off work early and passed by the supermarket. It was a small place, the aisles cramped. She was standing behind the register in an ill-fitting maroon uniform, head down, scanning items. Her hair was pulled back messily, a few strands escaping around her neck. A customer had bought too much and the handle on his plastic bag snapped, spilling groceries all over the floor. She quickly came around the counter and knelt to pick them up. Someone in line grumbled, "Come on." What's the holdup? She didn't say anything, just scrambled to gather the items into a new bag, sweat beating on her temple. I walked in. She was about to hand the heavy bag back to the customer. I took it from her. I've got it. She looked up, stunned. What are you? I didn't say anything, just handed the bag to the impatient man who mumbled something and left. She stood there rubbing her fingers on the hem of her uniform. You're not off yet? I asked. No, another half hour. I'll wait for you outside. I stood by the entrance and had a cigarette. Just as I was finishing, she came out, her uniform swapped for her own worn coat. Where's Nora? The woman at the daycare is watching her. We're heading there now. We walked side by side in silence. We picked Nora up and she ran to hug Claire's leg. Mommy! Then she saw me and added quietly, Mr. Back home. She cooked. I played with Nora and a new puzzle I bought, when a piece would fit. She got frustrated and whimpered. I found the right piece for her. Try this one. She looked up at me. Thank you, mister. At the dinner table, she asked. Slow day at work. It was okay. You shouldn't come to the supermarket anymore, I said. Her hand, holding her fork, paused. Why not? It's too far. The pay is bad and you're on your feet all day, I said. I looked into the daycare fees for Nora. We can pay for the whole semester at a discount. She looked down at her plate and didn't answer. That night when I came out of the shower, she was sitting on the couch without her laptop. Ethan, yeah, the money. I calculated it. The supermarket pay isn't great, but it helps. Her voice was quiet but firm. Daycare, groceries, rent, you can't pay for everything. And I still haven't paid you back for the hospital. We'll talk about it later, I said. Dry my hair. That job is draining. If he gets sick, what happens to Nora? She didn't say anything. A few days later, she quit the supermarket. She started taking on some freelance translation gigs, her old profession. She'd sit hunched over the coffee table with that ancient Dell, working for hours. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and see the living room light was still on, the screen's glow illuminating her focus profile. If Nora stirred in her sleep, she would immediately minimize her work and tiptoe into the other room to check on her. Fall arrived, and with it more rain. Nora started coughing again. It wasn't serious, but it made her restless at night, needing to be held. Claire would carry her, packing back and forth in the small apartment, humming. I pushed open Nora's door. Let me take her. She shook her head. You have work tomorrow. It's fine. I took the child from her. She was a tiny, warm bundle in my arms, her head resting on my shoulder, her breathing a little raspy. She felt hot. I touched her forehead. I think her fever's back. Claire got the thermometer. 101. We gave her water, used a cool cloth on her forehead. We were up for hours until her temperature finally started to drop. Nora fell asleep and we put her back in bed. Claire sank into the chair by the bed, her face etched with exhaustion. Go to sleep, I said. I'll watch her. She didn't argue this time, retreating to the master bedroom. I leaned against the toddler bed, watching Nora's little face, her breathing finally even. Later that night, a chill woke me up. A thin blanket was draped over my shoulders. Claire was sitting in the chair next to me, awake, watching Nora. Did I wake you? She whispered. No, the gray light of dawn was filtering through the blinds. Was it always like this? I asked when she got sick. She hummed a quiet yes. Once she had Rusilla, her fever shot up to 104. Her voice was flat, detached, like she was telling someone else's story. I had to carry her to the hospital alone. Couldn't get a cab, so I walked for blocks. She threw up all over me on the way there. We were in the hospital for 3 days while she was on a 4. I never slept. She paused. Back then, all I could think was, if you were here. She stopped, not finishing the thought outside. The first bus of the day rumbled past. You should get some sleep, she said. It's almost morning. I had a college reunion. I usually skip them, but for some reason I agreed to go this time. The restaurant was loud. A mix of cigarette smoke, alcohol, and grilled meat. Someone slapped me on the back. Ethan, man. Heard you have a daughter now. You kept that quiet. When did that happen? Didn't even know you were married. So who's the lucky lady? You got to bring her out sometime. I took a long swallow of beer. Maybe sometime. A woman who used to have a crush on me, Lee, sat across the table studying me with a smile. I just can't picture you as a dad. Well, I am. Are you strict with her? You used to have such a temper. I'm all right. When the party broke up, one of my friends, completely drunk, slung his arm around my neck. Dude, seriously, what happened with you and Claire back in the day? It was a real shame. His words were slurred. She was gorgeous and totally crazy about you. Why do guys break up? I don't remember, I said, shoving him into a taxi. I walked home. The night air was cool, making my head ache. When I got to my building, there was a figure standing by the door, a long, thin shadow. It was Claire. She was wearing her coat like she was about to go out. Why are you standing out here? I called you, but you didn't answer, she said. Nora has a bit of fever and we're out of Tylenol. I came out to buy some and forgot my keys. I checked my phone, several missed calls. Did you get it? Yeah, she was clutching a small box of medicine. Let's go check on her. Nora was sleeping fitfully, her forehead warm but not dangerously hot. I got a damp cloth and wiped her face and hands. Claire stood nearby. Was the reunion fun? She asked suddenly. It was what it was. See anyone you knew? Yeah. Was Lee there? I paused. Lee was the classmate from across the table. She didn't ask anything else. I tucked the blanket around Nora. She asked me why we broke up, I said. Claire was looking at Nora, her face indistinct in the dim glow of the nightlight. What did you tell her that I forgot? She let out a tiny, humorless laugh. It is kind of hard to remember. We were too young, I said. She didn't respond. After a long silence, just when I thought she wouldn't speak again, she did. Ethan, yeah, if back. Then if I hadn't left, or if I had told you, her voice was so low I could barely hear it. Do you think things would be different? I didn't answer. She didn't seem to expect me to. She turned to leave, get some sleep. The door closed behind her with a soft click. I had to go on a business trip for 3 days. I got back in the afternoon. The apartment was empty. On Nora's bed, her little bear lay by itself. There was a note on the coffee table, taking Nora to the clinic for her shots. Back soon. The handwriting was a little rushed. I dropped my bags and took a shower. As I was getting out, I heard the front door opened, followed by Nora's giggles. Mommy, stop, it tickles. Claire was holding her, pressing her forehead against Nora's, smiling as she dodged and weaved. She saw me and her smile faltered for a second. You're back. Yeah. Nora wiggled out of her arms and ran off to play with her toys. Claire put her bag down and went to the kitchen for a glass of water. Trip go okay? It was fine. She leaned against the counter, drinking her water, her silhouette thin and frail. Did she cry during the shot? Nope. Just whimpered a little, she said suddenly. She's braver than you. I looked at her. Back in college, when we had to get blood drawn for the physicals, your face went white as a sheet, she said. I had to hold your bag for you. Did I? You did. A corner of her mouth lifted in a smile, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared, like a ripple on a still lake. That night, she made few different dishes. A spicy chicken stir-fry, some kind of fiery beef stew. They were all my old favorites, heavy and hot. The peppers were on sale, she explained. I bought too many. At dinner, the spice was too much for Nora, who stuck her tongue out, panting. Claire rushed to get her some water. Mommy, hot. I'm so sorry, sweetie. I forgot to make a non-spicy dish for you." She looked genuinely upset. "It's fine," I said, taking a bite of the chicken. "Tastes the same as I remember." Her hand, which had been scooping up rice, paused for a fraction of a second. "Really?" "Yeah, after dinner she did the dishes. I was helping Nora with a puzzle. She couldn't get it right, and in a fit of frustration pushed all the pieces away. I don't want to play then." "What do you want to play?" "Horsey ride," she said, her eyes shining as she looked at me. I froze. Claire poked her head out of the kitchen. "Nora, don't be rude." Nora's lip trembled. I bent down. "All right, climb on." She let out a whoop of joy and scrambled onto my back, her small arms wrapping around my neck. Giddy up, I crawled around the living room with her on my back. She was so light, her laughter echoing in my ears. Claire stood in the kitchen doorway, wiping her hands on her apron, just watching. Her expression was complicated. Nora eventually tired herself out and was practically asleep on my back. I carried her to her little bed and tucked her in. When I came out, Claire was still standing there. "Thank you," she said. "It's nothing." A heavy silence stretched between us. "She hasn't been that happy in a long time," Claire said softly. "I could do it more often," I offered. She glanced up at me, then quickly looked down again. Okay. The weather turned cold for good. The heat in the building hadn't been turned on yet, and the apartment was damp and chilly. Claire's old Dell finally died. The screen went black and wouldn't turn on no matter what she did. She stared at it for a while, then got up and started doing laundry without a word. The sound of the washing machine filled the apartment. The next day after work, I came home with a new laptop, a thin silver MacBook Air. I put on the table. She saw it and froze. "It's for you," I said. "You can't stop taking translation jobs." She stared at the box, not moving. "It's too expensive. We'll deduct it from the rent you owe me," I said. She rubbed her fingers on her apron before carefully opening the box. She lifted out the computer, its silver case gleaming. "Thank you," she whispered. "Try it out." She plugged it in and turned it on. The screen lit up, reflecting in her eyes. "It's so fast," she said, her fingers gliding over the trackpad, so much faster than the old one. Nora ran over, curiously touching the screen. "Mommy, it's pretty." "Yes, it is." She looked up at me. "Really? Thank you. It was nothing." That night I got up for a drink of water. A sliver of light was showing from under Nora's door, which was now also her office. I pushed it open. She was sitting at the small desk, working on a new laptop. The screen was filled with dense paragraphs of a foreign language. Still up. She turned, looking a little embarrassed. "Just finishing this section. Don't stay up too late." "I won't." As I was closing the door, I heard her humming very softly. The tune was familiar. It was the same one she used to hum when she was pulling all-nighters to finish a project back in college. That weekend, the sun finally came out. We took Nora to the park. The leaves had turned yellow and covered the ground, crunching under our feet. Nora ran ahead, chasing pigeons. Claire followed, telling her to slow down. I walked behind them both. The warmth of the sun made me feel lazy. Nora tripped and fell in the grass, but she didn't cry. She just got up, brushed herself off, and kept running. Claire let out a sigh of relief and glanced back at me, smiling. I noticed she had fine lines around her eyes now. She didn't used to. At noon, we sat on a park bench and ate the sandwiches we brought. Nora munched on her bread, watching some people fly a kite. "Mommy, a kite?" "Yes, a kite. Can we fly one?" "Next time," Claire said. "We didn't bring one today." Nora looked a little disappointed, but a passing butterfly quickly captured her attention. Claire handed me a water bottle. I took it. There was a faint smudge of lipstick on the rim. She never used to wear lipstick. She still didn't seem to wear it often, only when we went out. "What are you looking at?" she asked. "Nothing." I twisted the cap off and took a drink. The water was lukewarm. In the afternoon, Nora was tired out and fell asleep in her stroller. We walked home slowly, our shadows stretching long in front of us. "It's been a long time since we've done something like this," she said. "Yeah." "Nora had a lot of fun, and you?" I asked. She turned her head to look at me. "What? Are you having fun?" I clarified. She thought for a moment. "It's nice." She smiled a little and didn't ask what I thought. When we got back to our building, she carried Nora upstairs first while I parked the car. As I was walking up, I heard her on the phone out on the balcony, her voice low and tense. "I'll figure out the money. Just give me a little more time." "Mom, I know." I took a few steps back and knocked loudly on the front door. The voice inside stopped. She opened the door, her expression perfectly normal. "Dinner's ready." During the meal, her phone screen lit up several times with text notifications. She didn't look. "Just silenced it. Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just spam calls." She put a piece of egg on Nora's plate. "Hurry up and eat." That night it started to rain, a heavy downpour. A loud clap of thunder woke me up. I heard Nora's door open, followed by the faint sound of crying. I got out of bed. Claire was already there holding her. The thunder woke her up. Nora was buried in her arms, sobbing. "Daddy," she whimpered, the sound nearly lost in the storm. Both Claire and I froze. "Want Daddy?" Nora mumbled. Again, her face hidden against Claire's chest. Claire looked at me over Nora's head, her expression unreadable. I walked over. "I'll take her." The little girl turned and reached for me. It was effortless, natural. I took her and she wrapped her arms around my neck, crying softly, scared. "It's okay. It's just the thunder making noise." I paced the room with her, humming a tuneless song. Claire leaned against the door frame, watching. When the rain subsided, Nora was asleep. I gently laid her back in her bed and pulled the covers up. Claire was still standing there. "She called you Daddy," she said. "I know, and you answered." I did, in the dark. I couldn't see her face clearly. There was only the sound of the rain and our breathing. "Go to sleep," she said, turning. Her shoulder brushed against my arm, a fleeting touch. My mom called again. "Next weekend is your father's birthday. Come over for dinner," she added. "Bring Nora and Claire." I relayed the message. Claire was slicing potatoes. The knife paused midair. "Okay." She resumed cutting, her slices perfectly thin. "Should we bring anything?" "No, just yourselves." That weekend, we went to the mall. She spent a long time picking out a wool sweater for my dad and a silk scarf for my mom. "I don't know if they'll like them," she said, sounding anxious. "They're great." On the day of my dad's birthday, the house was full of relatives. Nora was surrounded, feeling shy, and wouldn't let go of Claire's hand. She has Ethan's eyes, but her nose is like her mother's, so delicate. Claire managed a tight smile, fielding their comments. At dinner, my mom put some food on Claire's plate. "Eat up. You look like you've lost more weight." "Thank you, ma'am." "Still calling me ma'am?" my mom asked, looking at her. Claire's chopsticks froze. The entire table was looking at them. Nora piped up in her high-pitched voice. "Mommy, Grandma wants you to call her Grandma." Table erupted in laughter. A blush crept up Claire's neck. "Mom," she said, her voice barely audible. My mom beamed, placing a piece of fish on her plate. "There we go, good." On the way home, Nora was asleep in the back. Claire stared out the window. "Your mother is wonderful." "Yeah, and today, thank you for what?" "For not letting me be embarrassed." I turned to look at her. She was still watching the city lights flash across her face. "The things that happened before," she said softly. "They're all in the past." I didn't say anything. I pulled up to our building and put the car in park. She didn't get out right away. "Ethan, yeah, can we?" She took a deep breath as if gathering all her courage. "Can we try again?" The car was silent, save for the sound of our daughter's steady breathing. I looked at her. She looked back at me, her eyes shining in the dark. I could see hope in them and fear. It was the same look she had all those years ago, the first time she told me she liked me. "Okay," I said. Her eyes instantly welled up with tears. She turned her face away, her shoulders trembling slightly. I reached out and took her hand. It was cold. She flinched but didn't pull away. Instead, her fingers curled around mine, gripping them so tightly, her knuckles went white. Life didn't seem all that different, but at the same time, everything was she stopped sleeping in Nora's room. At night, there was the warmth and breath of another person beside me. Sometimes I'd wake up and see her sleeping face and feel a sense of dislocation, like I was in a dream. Nora started calling me Daddy all the time. It was completely natural, as if it had always been that way. That weekend, we took her to an amusement park. She rode the carousel and we stood on the ground watching. The music played and the horses bobbed up and down. Nora waved at us, grinning from ear to ear. Claire leaned against me, her head resting gently on my shoulder. "This feels like a dream," she said. I put my arm around her waist. "It's not leaving the park." Nora was asleep. I carried her on my back. Claire walked beside me, holding a half-eaten stick of cotton candy. The setting sun stretched our shadows long. "Ethan." "Yeah, if only she started but didn't finish." "It's not too late," I said. She stopped walking and looked at me, her eyes filled with a light that was impossibly soft. "No," she said. "It's not too late." We got home and opened the door, the light in. The entryway cast a warm yellow glow. As she bent down to take off her shoes, I saw the small mole on the back of her neck appearing and disappearing with the movement. I remembered it from years ago. It was still there, like a landmark. Nora woke up, rubbing her eyes and asking for water. Claire went to get her a drink. I watched her, her back to me, wearing an apron, her hair loosely tied up. She was the woman of this house. She always had been. That night, she curled up against me, her fingers tracing the buttons on my pajama shirt. "I'm about to finish that big translation project. The payment is pretty good." "Good. I was thinking we could repaint Nora's room. She likes pale yellow." "Okay." And she looked up, her eyes sparkling. "Shouldn't we go get a marriage license?" I leaned down and kissed her forehead. "Whatever you want," she smiled, burying her face in my chest, her voice muffled. Ethan, yeah, don't lose me again. I won't, I said, hold her tighter. Never again.